Yo, call me a sales figure doing my nuts to get bigger. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Kitchen. Today and only today, we are here with a news video. It's been a while since we've done one of these just because everything has been reactions, discussions, all that. But now things are calming down a little bit. So a lot more of the stuff are going to be, more videos, rankings, mods, and all that. But today we are here to talk about some news, specifically about Sonic X Shadow's sales figures and big start in the West, but not so much in Japan. And of course, if you'd like to see more, of course, make sure to subscribe to your boy and let me know if you're enjoying the content. So Sonic X Shadow has been out for about 2 weeks, but in fact, the day after the game launched, we found that something pretty massive, and that was that the game sold 1 million copies. As we can see here, within its first day, Sonic X Shadow Generations has sped past 1 million copies sold across physical and digital, right? The game released on PC, every platform you can see, and for some comparisons, in 2022, Sonic Frontiers sold 2.5 million copies within its first month, and by spring 2023, that number grew gradually to 3.5 million. Like with Frontiers, Sega has been heavily advertising gens, particularly since the Shadow campaign's success, and its campaign's intended as an appetizer for the character appearance in the third movie in December. So, pretty massive deal that this game has sold 1 million copies so quickly. It is up there as one of the fastest selling launches for a Sonic game, and it's pretty incredible because, again, like they said here, Frontiers did 2.5 million in a month, right? So to see Sonic X Shadow Gens do 1 million in a day, it's gonna be huge. Now, we're not even factoring the fact that Black Friday is coming up, which is going to be huge for sales. We're about to get that in about 2 weeks, I think. So there's going to be a huge sales bump there. And then, of course, right after that movie is out, there's the Keanu DLC. So many sales figures. I'm imagining a mega boost in December because you're already gonna have the up of like December where people just want games for their families, but you're gonna have a double boost of people that leave the theater being like, holy shit, I need to play a game with Shadow in it, and they're just gonna lock in and play that. And this is on top of Sega's just incredible year of launches. They had Persona 3 launch 1 million in less than a few days. They had Yakuza come out and sell 1 million in less than a few days. We had Metaphor sell 1 million in over a few days. Like, they are just going crazy. They are in their biggest bag, and Sega is in the best place they have ever been. But one problem remains, and that is Sonic's standing in Japan. So we found out recently via Genki over here, shout out to them, who do a lot of sales analysis in Japan. Sonic Shadow Generation sold 10k physical units at launch on Japan on Switch and PS5, slightly better than OG gens, which sold 10k units on launch. But now you might be thinking this is okay. Well, not really, right? Because if you look here at launch, Sonic Frontiers had sold about 46,000 units, and here I guess Sonic Shadow Gens is about like under what Sonic Forces did, really, in the overall chart. I mean, what, 10,600, and then Sonic Forces 10,850 units. So the little less than Frontiers that launched. I think that another post where they said, yeah, here, Shadow Gen Switch version launched at number 10 in Japan, selling 7k physical copies at launch. PS5 and PS4 versions did not chart in the top 10, having a blast of the game, but it seems like it's a lot of Japan doesn't mess with Sonic. So pretty disappointing sales figures there, especially like they said, Sonic Frontiers launched with 46k physical units on all platforms. Superstars had launched with just 4k, so it's doing better than Superstars is, but it's pretty clear something is wrong. And obviously, Sonic Frontiers is a much bigger game, and we're going to talk about that, but I even tried to do a bit of my own research. So for example, right now, if you go on the Japanese PSM and you go on the top charters, it's like Fortnite, Monster Hunter, COD, Romancing Saga, Rainbow Six, Minecraft, Romancing Saga, Metaphor, Baseball, WWE, Elden Ring, Dragon Ball, EA Sports, and then Sonic Shadow Generations. And like, I would say these are all, mega games, but like some of these have been really high up. I mean, some of these, Elden Ring's pretty old at this point. Professional baseball, I know baseball is huge in Japan, so a lot of these are pretty big games, so it's not that bad that Sonic is all the way down here. It means it's still selling, a solid amount of copies, but the fact that it's like next to Phasmo in terms of digital doesn't really speak the loudest. And in fact, I actually opened up my Switch on the Japanese eShop, and the game is nowhere to be found even in the top 30. In fact, right in Japan right now, if you look here, number 1, Yakuza right there, number 1 in the digital chart. Then if you go on the physical chart, Yakuza is doing much better on the Japanese, shockingly, because I thought at this point everyone had played Yakuza 0, so, or Yakuza Kiwami. So to see it doing so in Japan, I'm happy for it, right? And even the developers came out and said that the Switch version is selling well, but it's nowhere really near to be seen there, which is funny in comparison because I went on the, you know, the American eShop, like the one I use, and both of those games are not here except for Shadow Gens right here at 21 and Kiwami nowhere to be seen. But if you go on the digital only chart right here, you will see that what's it called, Sonic is in number 10 and Yakuza is at number 20. So interesting charting stuff there. It's obvious that Sonic is doing better here. And again, keep in mind, I'm recording this 2 weeks after the game has launched now. So on week 1, it was probably much higher. But again, it's pretty clear that there is a massive shift between Japan and the West when it comes to Sonic sales. Now, what does this mean for the future? What's going on? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I am a little surprised, right? Because I actually went to Japan this year, funny enough, in September when they were heavily promoting Sonic X Shadow, and I felt like they were doing a pretty good job. I mean, at TGS, they had a massive booth. Now, granted, TGS is supposed to be a gaming event, so it's not the same as the public, but when I was going to Stars stores with Aura, we were seeing like a decent amount of stands for Sonic Shadow Gens. And to be honest with you, in Japan, here's the reality. As someone who's been there and explored it, most of the stores don't really have Sonic merch, right? It's not like you go into a shop and you see, oh, there's Sonic figures, oh, here's Sonic toys. Like, I had to dig to find some of the stuff I did find some cool stuff, but it mainly boiled down to, you know, they had the Sonic and Friends little plushie stuff because that's on the cuter side, and that was really it. I mean, if you go to Sega Joyopolis, which is a Sega store place, yeah, there was Sonic stuff there, but not really in the general public eyes. And like I said, I was a little bit surprised because Sonic Frontiers did really well on launch in Japan, but it's very clear to see that there's a continued feeling that Sonic is growing more and more in the West, but it doesn't seem to be pushing that needle in Japan despite Frontier's success and despite Frontier's doing super well there. I was even trying to dig a little bit in like the viewership stuff. So for example, on the Japanese Sonic channel, if you search like Sonic Frontiers, right? If you look over here, they got, you know, 180k views on stuff, 17k views, 146k views, 96k views, 53k, 193k, 95k, 115k. For like, there's a fuck ton of Frontiers videos, 162k, 40k, 17k, 90k, which again, obviously are not the bulk of the views, but obviously, you know, what's called Sonic Frontiers is bigger for Japan. But if you look up, like, for example, Sonic X Shadow for the Japanese over here, it's like 37k, and then obviously Dark Beginning is doing super well on 39k. You got 75k, you got 79k, 94k, 17k, 21k. Like, the videos did pretty decently. Now, obviously, when it comes to Sonic, the bulk of the views come from the American side. Like, look at this. Sonic Shadow Gens, 500k here, 296k here, 1 million on the announcement, 365k for Dark Beginnings, 700k for all the videos together. Gens, 1 million views. Like, it is so clear the difference in terms of popularity. And even if you look over here, one more page here is we have the UK charts. Sonic Shadow Gens has actually been doing even better than Mario Party Jamboree, and Mario Party is huge. Even though it came out, I want to say, no, it came out, Mario Party, it came out like 4 or 5 days beforehand. It still doesn't change the fact that like Mario Party is huge, and Sonic Shadow Gens is sitting up there with massive sellers. You know, you have Call of Duty on the top, EA, and then Sonic Shadow Gens, which is pretty big. You know, I don't know if that says anything else about it really. This week, Sonic Shadow Gens has boosted itself onto the podium to land number 3. However, the region once again demonstrates love for shooting bad guys, yada yada. But it is a pretty big deal, I think, in my opinion, that it's doing better than Mario Party. It makes sense it's doing better than a lot of these. Not surprising because these are old games at this point, but really happy for Sonic and doing a lot of successful stuff outside of Japan because it is once again clear. I don't know what the solution is. Now, we do know for December this time around that Sonic Movie 3, I believe, is a worldwide release. So I think Japan is getting it alongside the West this time around. You know, and that even the movie is called Tokyo Mission in Japan. Like, they're pushing the movie a bit more in Japan this time, and they want it to be a thing. But what is the solution, right? Or is there even a solution? Is it just the fact that Sonic is a bigger IP in the West, which it always has been? This isn't surprising, but I guess I'm a little sad to see that even despite how big Sonic Frontiers was there, we're not necessarily seeing the tide shift like I thought we would. Now, granted, with Sonic Gens, it is still technically a remaster, right? It is technically a remaster with new content, so maybe a lot of people in Japan were thinking, oh, like, this is not necessarily a new thing, we don't need it. And also, Sonic Frontiers in Japan fits what Japan audiences like a lot. I was seeing some posts about this online where Japan is way more heavy on action games. They love action games, and Sonic Frontiers is way more of an action game, right? You have a whole combat moveset in there. Obviously, you know, it's not the most fleshed out thing, but people in Japan like that. They like, you know, having big open world action set pieces and stuff, and I feel like what they were doing with that game was more Japanese oriented, right? Not necessarily in terms of how the game is designed, but in terms of just what people like from the genre. And so I think Sonic Frontiers 2 or whatever inevitably will come out is gonna do better, right? But I'm sure Sega is also like scratching their head a bit, being like, okay, well, Superstars didn't do well after Frontiers, right? And now we have this Sonic Shadow bundle that didn't do well as Frontiers. Like, what do we do over here? And I'm sure the game is also going to do well after the movie, but I do think it's time for Sega of Japan to sort of almost assist pushing Sonic more in the West, but with Japanese influence, because I think this is not a sign that the West should handle Sonic, because I think, you know, that's how you get stuff like Sonic Boom or some of the mishaps we've gotten. But it is pretty clear that there's a lot of passionate fans and creators and people that involved with Sonic that are doing the series justice. I mean, you think of the movie, right, that is pretty much seen and written by Tyson Hesse and a bunch of people, you know, Jeff Fowler, the director. Obviously, I'm sure Izuka and everybody's being contacted, you know, to be like, hey, is it okay if we do this? And they're giving them their approvals and blessings, right? But we're seeing that. You know, we're seeing even with Shadow Generations, Ian Flynn is obviously the writer, but again, Japan is sort of, they're the head honchos, right? They're the one giving him the shots. In fact, he confirmed this recently, that like anyone that thinks that he's just going rogue, doing his own thing is crazy. And that, you know, it is very much Sega of Japan that is like giving them the okays on things, you know? So Sega Japan is still pretty heavily involved. And even when I went to, you know, Sega's offices in Japan, it's still very clear that, you know, they are very Sonic oriented, right? And Sega team and meeting Izuka and everything. Like, there's a lot of passion that goes into that side of things. Now, what do they do, right? And you think of like the anime side, right? A lot of people want a Sonic anime to come back, but I think a lot of people just want a cool animated project. I mean, I think of Studio Gigix that just worked on Sonic Shadow Dark Beginnings, and I think everybody and their mothers agrees these guys should handle their own Sonic show. Like, I think if these guys did it, they would absolutely cook, and I think no one would be upset, no one would be angry. Everybody would be like, please let these guys handle this, right? And so I think stuff like that, I think continuing to allow people like Tyson has to work on stuff, continuing to allow even teams, you know, like the Mania team, and I forget, is RZest a Japanese developer or not? Yeah, I mean, RZest are a Japanese developer, and they handled Superstars, and like, Superstars is great, and I do hope they maybe get to do a sequel just so they can flesh out their things. But again, like, you think of the previous studio, which was Sonic team and the team and Christian Wyatt and a lot of the Western team. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of weird things there. I still want the games to be developed by Sonic team. That's first and foremost, because when I play a game like Shadow Generations, I'm like, holy shit, Sonic team gets it, right? This isn't a slight at them. I think they are able to cook and they want to cook, right? But I don't think it's that deep to be like, you know what? I think Sonic works better in the West and they're selling more there, right? I think it's fine to sort of accept that, maybe. And obviously, you know, you always got to push what you got to push and do what you got to do. But it's very, I don't know, for me, it's more interesting, right? It's interesting and it's very clear that when it comes to Sonic team and all these guys, that they're trying their best, right? But it's very clear that Sonic is more oriented to the US. And I'd love to know your guys' opinion on that. Like, do you want Sonic to be more Japanese focused, or do you like it being a success in those? Now, granted, it doesn't really affect us at the end of the day, as long as we're getting banger games and Sonic team is cooking. I'm happy with that. It's a very surprising thing. And like I said, I just don't know what they're supposed to do at this point, right? Maybe they just want Sonic to be cool and in the spotlight there, right? So I think they're trying to still figure out what works best. I'll be really interested to see what happens next, because now we're getting rumors of a Sonic Heroes remake for next year. We know there's rumors of a Chao Garden game. We're about to have movie 3 explode. Maybe Sonic 3's movie is going to do incredibly well in Japan, right? We have no idea, and that's gonna blow things up. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I just thought that was fun to talk about, where we are seeing right now Sonic do its biggest performance of all time, right, in the West and just in the world. I think Sonic's branding is bigger than it's ever been. I think we all know that, right? You're starting to see people just talk about Sonic in a positive light. We're seeing massive even content creators hop on Sonic Shadow Gens. Like, it's really cool to see what they are doing with this series and how far we're going. But it'll be interesting to see what they do for future projects. Are they going to allow more Western studios to maybe work on their spin-offs? Are they going to continue to be more Japanese focused and keep trying there and give it more leeway to, you know, the West to do stuff? But I think there's a perfect middle ground. I think for me, Sonic Team working on everything and cooking extremely hard, right, while the Western side, you know, promotes stuff, launches the stuff really well, has the people like your Tyson Hesses and your Ians and your Studio Gigas and whatever working together, it being a collaborative effort, I think is ultimately for the better. So guys, let me know, of course, what you all think. I love you guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you all next time. Peace out.